Chapter 116, What's in Your Brain? Long Jinglin's exaggerated voice came out of the cell phone. Heavens. Eldest brother, you're finally on. I'm dead tired of being bugged by my big brother. He said that Kongxia has been trying to contact you and couldn't get through. For this day only, I've answered my big brother's call for 18 times already. Tang Shou said, I know, I will call Kongxia. Tell your brother my regards. Long Jinglin cried, Eldest brother, you've returned to Star City? How about the preparation for our getting rich plan? Getting rich plan? Tang Shou stared blankly for a moment before recalling the time when he was about to leave for Jingmen Island. That time, Long Jinglin looked for him and talked about the mass production of the men's sexual enhancement and medication products. After having thought for a moment, he slowly said, I just got back to the Star City and will return to Southgate Town soon. I'll tell you the answer tonight. Long Jinglin said with a laugh, then, I'll wait for the good news. Right, are you bored? Want me to accompany you? Although you are not a beauty, but since you can make me rich, you are still quite attractive though. Damn you. Tang Shou cursed and laughed loudly as he then directly hung up the phone. Tang Shou called Kongxia after having found her number. The phone had just connected when Kongxia's voice then came out, Boss, you're really just like a dragon god that's very hard to reach, even your tail is unable to be seen. I've been calling you dozens of times since yesterday, and I couldn't get connected to you. Where are you now? I've arrived at Star City and I want to see you immediately. Boss? Tang Shou smiled and was very satisfied with the name Kongxia called him. Through this address, he knew that Kongxia had complied to work for him. Come to Southgate Town. I'm waiting for you at home. I'll text the address to your phone. All right. About half an hour, Kongxia called him. And it was unexpected for Tang Shou since she was held by the villa complex's security. After having called the security chief, only then was Kongxia able to enter the villa complex. Boss, it's really not easy to see you. Kongxia was wearing a working blazer suit with gold-rimmed eyeglasses, giving off a spirited, capable, and competent look. After having seen Tang Shou, a wry smile was revealed on her beautiful face. Tang Shou gestured her to sit on the sofa and spoke, Has the test results come out? There is no problem with those two formulas, yes? Kongxia nodded and said, It has been tested. And it indeed has no harmful substances for the human body. In addition, I also have already registered the company and need to arrange the organizational structure. But, since I couldn't contact you, I named the company group on my own initiative. Tang Shou asked, What is the name? Kongxia said, Magnificent Tang Corporation. Tang Shou savored it a few times inside before he replied with satisfaction, That's a very good name. It's to my taste. I've told you before that I've given you the rights and privileges to create the company as well as managing it. You only need to inform me the issues that you cannot handle, and I'll figure out the solution. Okay. Kongxia gave an okay hand gesture and then said again, This is the company's original registered documents and I'll be holding the copies. The company's owner and main stakeholder is you. Tang Shou received it casually and skimmed through it. Then, he placed it on the table in front of him and said, I think having only 2 products is not enough. Moreover, we cannot solely have our business in cosmetics. We should expand to some other fields, such as beverages. Kongxia interrupted Tang Shou, and then said seriously, Boss, we have just founded our company and there are many issues we have yet to handle, such as packaging, logo designing, factory construction, production lines equipment, and many others. Besides, the money you gave me for our starting capital is too few and it won't be enough. I think it's too early to develop new products. Tang Shou took out his phone and transferred 80 million through online banking to Kongxia and said, I don't have much money right now. You use this money first, then you can call me later if the fund is insufficient. You can use it according to our financial situation. Kang Xia was astonished. Didn't you say that you had no money 5 or 6 days ago? How come you have so much money in just a short time? Tang Xiao let out a forced smile and said, it's just that I had some opportunities. But now I'm 2.5 billion in debt. Therefore, you have to work hard and strive to make money for me. 2.5 billion? Kang Xiao stared at Tang Xiao in disbelief as she said, what did you do? How come you have a debt of 2.5 billion? It's not 250 million nor is it 2.5 million. It's 10 digits, 2.5 billion. Tang Xiao replied casually, I participated in an auction and found an extremely valuable feng shui place. So I bought it. As long as you work hard for me, I can take you to have your vacation there. What kind of feng shui treasure would have a price of 2.5 billion? Kang Xia exclaimed in disbelief. Tang Xiao said, it's a private island in the Pacific Ocean. Kang Xia looked at Tang Xiao. If it were not that she believed that Tang Xiao was not someone who would joke about this matter, she would have thought that Tang Xiao was only bragging. After having hesitated for a moment, she finally braced herself to ask further about it and asked cautiously, Boss, you indeed have the ability, but who has such boldness to even dare lend you 2.5 billion? Tang Xiao originally did not want to answer Kang Xia's question. But then, he thought that she would be his right-hand person, so he could not help but answer it with difficulty, he's my disciple, Chan Zhizhong. An apprentice? Chan Zhizhong? Kang Xia's mind searched the name. 10 seconds later, her eyes turned into saucers as she exclaimed, the Endless Virtue Pharmaceuticals boss, Chen Zhizhong? He's your disciple? How could this be possible? Tang Xiao calmly said, and why would it be impossible? Do you think I am not worthy as his master? Kang Xia gulped down her saliva and replied with a disbelieving expression, I really can't swallow it. For what does he need to learn under you? I know that Chen Zhizhong's Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical only has a few billion in market value. However, with the shares he had bought from other companies, he has a lot of money from his shares dividend each year. And speaking about personal wealth, Chen Zhizhong's net worth absolutely exceeds 10 billion yuan. Tang Xiao said lightly, even if someone has trillions in asset, if I don't like him, I will never accept him as a disciple. Anyways, you don't need to inquire blindly about this topic again. Let's get back to our main topic. I think if you have the energy and will, you can separately branch out the subsidiary company and manage its business development. I already have an idea, so if you think that it's feasible, then do it. If you think that you don't have time and energy to manage the business for the new type of products, I can give it to someone else. Kang Xia shook her head and said, I have the energy, but I still don't recommend to make a subsidiary company. If you really want to do it, then it's fine with me. I'll let another subordinate handle it. If you feel that it's not appropriate, it's also fine to give it someone else to manage it. Tang Xiao said, all right, then I'll give it to the others. Recalling the 2 products that had been given to her, it slightly made Kang Xia's mind move and she then asked curiously, boss, as far as I know, the beverage market has been dominated by major brand companies nowadays. And I think that a new kind of beverage product entering the market would be very difficult. Only if you spend a huge amount of money for marketing would it be possible to become well known and take some market share. Of course, this also must be supported with the premise that it has a good flavor, taste, and uniqueness. Tang Xiao calmly listened to Kang Xia and admitted that there was still a lot of knowledge he had yet to learn. And since had met Kang Xia, then, he nodded and said, you're good. Your business knowledge is far beyond mine. In actuality, I want to run a beverage business. The uniqueness it has is that it's able to strengthen a man's sexual ability. What? Kang Xia was stunned as a strange deadpan expression covered her face. Tang Xiao said, speaking about this drink, maybe it's better to say that it's medicine. The effect is to nourish energy and invigorate the kidney, which is a very good supplement to aid in the increase of one's health. Its unique characteristic is that it can help men greatly in sexual intercourse, prolonging the playing time. For women, it would nourish their spirit and would greatly improve body metabolism. Huff. Kongxia suddenly stood up from the sofa as her beautiful eyes stared at Tangxiu and hastily asked, "Is that for real? Does it really have those effects? And no side effects on the human body?" Tangxiu said with a laugh, "Yup, I tell you, the effect is true and no side effects exist." Kongxia's breathing quickened rapidly and then said, "Boss, I take back my words. I was wrong. I'll take the said product under my management. I'm sure that once this product is listed on the market, it will absolutely cause a great sensation. Its future prospect can't be compared in the slightest bit with the two products you have given me earlier." "Are you sure?" asked Tangxiu. Kongxia replied firmly, "Yes, absolutely." Tangxiu snapped his fingers and said, "You handle the company's establishment first since I have yet to thoroughly study about this product. Give me a few days and I'll send you the product sample and you can try it if you want to." Kongxia's mouth twitched a few times. If the effects were truly as Tangxiu had said, she would definitely use it. But she somehow felt awkward, because the said product, as Tangxiu had said, after all, had a unique feature, that was, to increase one's sexual ability. With a complex expression, Kongxia glanced at Tangxiu and could not help but sigh, "Boss, I'm really clueless as to how deep your brain is, for having grasped such strange knowledge, you're even able to use it perfectly. The said 3 products of yours, had one of them fell into the hands of other businessmen, they would have produced a heavenly overturning wealth." Tangxiu faintly smiled and said, "I have some knowledge about medicinal herbs and I usually find something while researching, randomly when I have nothing to do in my free time." Kongxia nodded and said, "I've sent the 2 product samples you've given me before to be tested, and the test reports explained that they have a strong traditional Chinese medicine characteristic. Speaking about that, I actually have a suggestion that I think you can consider, boss." Tangxiu replied in astonishment, "What suggestion? Do tell me. If it's good, I'll take your advice." Chapter 117, The Trick to Make Someone Do Something. Kongxia said, "I think it would be better if we define the third product as a healthcare type rather than a beverage. Then we shall make it a high-class product. I believe that even if the price tag is a little bit expensive, those who need it will buy it." No, they will frantically buy it. Healthcare product? Tangxiu thought for a moment and then slowly nodded, "Good recommendation. Then, we'll define it as a healthcare product as you suggested. You decide the price and I'll tell you the approximate production cost later." Kongxia nodded. When she was about to say something, Gu Yin's cheerful laughter sounded from the second floor as she ran downstairs and directly threw herself into Tangxiu's arm. "Master, a guest came to visit?" Gu Yin's voice was very pleasant to hear, as though it was a light and sweet ringtone. Tangxiu really liked this newly received apprentice little girl. It was as if he could see the shadow of his adopted apprentice in the immortal world. Certainly, the most important thing was that Gu Yin had a tenacious and tough will. Her strong will, let alone for a young girl, even most adults did not have it. Besides, she was very filial and sensible. Tangxiu stroked down Gu Yin's black hair as he said with a smile, "Greet the guest, she's called Kongxia. You can call her Aunt Kongxia." Gu Yin nodded in a well-behaved manner and smiled sweetly toward Kongxia as she cried, "How do you do, Aunt Kongxia? Are you in discussion with Master? Please don't be angry with me if Yinin is disturbing you. Yinin will go upstairs immediately." Kongxia looked at Tangxiu and Gu Yin with a strange expression. She did not expect that she would meet Tangxiu's apprentice here. However, such a sensible little girl as her was very rare to find, so Kang Xia shook her head and spoke with a smile. You're called Inin? It's all right. I have finished the discussion with your master. After having said that, she shifted her sight at Tang Xiu and asked with curiosity, Boss, how many apprentices do you have? Tang Xiu said, 2. Kang Xia asked, what do you teach them? Tang Xiu calmly replied, the things I can teach are many. But there are a lot of things you can't understand, so refrain from asking. If you have no other issues, you can go now. It's the sending away order. Kang Xia was dumbfounded and speechless as she looked at Tang Xiu. She was the respected Kang Xia, a top-class beauty, the legendary figure of the business world who countless people wished to get some time to be together with her. But how would she be degraded into a guest that was ordered to leave? And, she had been here for quite a while, but not even a cup of tea had been fully drunk? This boss was truly a rare and wonderful grab. Having whispered to herself inside, Kang Xia then got up and said, then, I bid my farewell first. If I come across an issue I can't handle, as well as have an important matter in the company, I'll contact you. Tang Xiu nodded and watched Kang Xia leave. He then asked Gu Yin with a smile, did your mother go out to the grocery store to buy some food? Why didn't you go with her? Gu Yin said with a laugh, Mum said that I've just recovered, so she wants me to stay at home to rest. Besides, I don't want to go. The cultivation technique master has taught me is really interesting. I've tried a few times today and I could feel the kind of energy circulation you told me about. It's just this energy circulation is too naughty and I can't control it. Tang Xiu asked in astonishment, you feel it already? That fast? Gu Yin was confused, very fast? I think when I first tried it, I could feel it. Tang Xiu touched the bridge of his nose as a forced smile emerged on his face. Others would need at least a few months to feel the energy circulation after they began their cultivation practice. But this treasured apprentice of his was even able to feel the energy circulation within only one day. This sacred body of twin pulse-ice phoenix's constitution was really defying the heavenly order. Inin, you must remember that you cannot rush your cultivation. Since you are already able to feel the energy circulation now, try slower. By the time you can control this energy circulation, tell me about it. Tang Xiu advised. Gu Yin said with a laugh, I'll remember it, master. Tang Xiu patted her small head and said, go play now. I need to go out to take care of something. Ah. Right. When your mother comes back, tell her that I won't be having dinner at home tonight. One last thing, if the real estate sends a courier here, tell her to receive and sign it on my behalf. Okay, master. Be relieved. Gu Yin smiled and then ran. It had been more than 2 years that she nearly did not smile nor laugh. Even if she smiled, it was because she did not want to make her mother sad, and forced herself to look happy and cheerful. In her heart right now, the closest person besides her mother was Tang Xiu. Previously, she also had learned the saying that, once a master for a day was a father for a lifetime. She had no father now, so she regarded Tang Xiu as her father in her heart. In the next half an hour, Tang Xiu left the villa complex. From Banzhou he learned that Su Shangwen's intention to find her mother was to borrow some money. This made him uneasy, so he decided to visit the restaurant. If Su Shangwen dared to go to the restaurant, he would not hesitate to give him a painful lesson. After having an expansion, the restaurant managed by Su Lingyun could not be called as a small-sized restaurant anymore. Even there being too many patrons, the second extension had been carried out a while ago. And now, the restaurant was enough to accept 80 patrons at the same time. When Tang Xiu arrived, mealtime had yet to finish, but there were still a lot of patrons eating meals at the moment. Since nearly all the restaurant's waiters already knew Tang Xiu, they smiled and greeted him. Boss, you've come. Banzhou, who worked at the restaurant, eagerly ran over. Tang Xiu asked, my mother? Banzhou said, Big Boss is doing the accounting. I just served tea for her, and it seems like she is worried about something. Because of Su Shangwen? Tang Xiu's brows wrinkled as he spoke. Banzhou smiled wryly, it should be. Su Shangwen's wife has just left the restaurant 10 minutes before you came. That woman is really annoying. At first, she asked for Big Boss's help and then she actually wanted Big Boss to advise you, making you help build the bridge between Su Shangwen and the people from the Long group. Tang Xiu's brows slanted more as a fed-up feeling burst out in his heart when he recalled his cheap aunt's face. He lightly patted Banzhou's shoulder and then strode toward the office. Creak. Tang Xiu pushed open the door and secretly sighed as he saw his mother sitting at the desk, looking distressed whilst doing the accounting. Then he went in and said, Mom, are you busy? Su Lingyun raised her head as she suddenly stood up when she found that it was Tang Xiu and then asked, Sonny, you just came back from the other city? Your teacher in charge, Teacher Han, told me that you must go for a week to participate in the subject competition in another city. This morning I also thought that it's about time you should come back. Since Tang Xiu did not want to lie to his mother, so he immediately shifted the topic as he said with a smile, I also wanted to come back early, so I rushed back here after having finished it. Mom, your gray hair seems to have come out recently. Is managing the restaurant too tiring for you? If so, you might as well delegate it to an employee. Your health is much more important. Tang Xiu's words made Su Lingyun's heart warm. She patted Tang Xiu's arm with a spoiling manner as she said with a smile, I'm not that tired, Sonny. Our family's situation has just changed for the better. So I must take this chance to earn more money and save it for you. Not only will you go to the college, but you'll also have a wife and must buy a house. You'll also need the money to buy milk powder for my future grandchildren. So I'll have to give it to you. Hey, you are thinking too far, Mom. Tang Xiu was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry. Su Lingyun said with a laugh, this is what a mother should do for the sake of my son's future. Ah, right. How about the competition you've participated in on the outside? Did you get the ranking? Tang Xiu replied with a smile, it's good. School's leaders are very satisfied. Mom, I just saw you doing the accounting. How come you are doing the accounting during the daytime? As I recall, you always do the accounting in the evening. Upon hearing Tang Xiu raise this matter, Su Lingyun suddenly looked distressed and said, it's because your uncle. His business has just encountered trouble and now he lacks the funds. Yesterday, he came here and wanted to borrow some money. I have been saving some money since our business has been good recently. But since I did the expansion for the restaurant a while ago, I only have a few 10,000 yuan to spare. Your uncle has helped us before for many times, so I thought that I could help him. Tang Xiu replied with a humph, he was not helping us, Mom. It's the charity. Mom, we know perfectly well Su Shangwen's conducts all these years. I advised you to ignore him, letting him know what it feels and tastes like to live in uneasiness. Su Lingyun hesitated a bit as she said with a wry smile. Ah. Even if you didn't say that I also know about it. But, whatever he is, he's your own uncle, my blood brother. Oh, this is a bad karma. Tang Xiu said, Mom, I'm afraid that some people would never know repentance if they have yet to get the lessons. Not to mention that we don't have much resources. Even if we want to help, we are lacking the strength to help him. I think that you don't need to give him money. He'll absolutely think that it's only pity money and charity from us. Not only will he not appreciate it, but instead he will be heartless and dislike us even more. You. Su Lingyun stared at Tang Xiu. She had never thought that her son could see it so thoroughly. Yesterday, she indeed had taken 100,000 yuan to give Su Shangwen. But Su Shangwen rejected and despised it. Not only did he not appreciate it, but he even gave her a rain of curses. Recalling about it now, she also felt that she had been wronged. Then, must she really not help Su Shangwen? But if she did not help him, how would he survive the difficulty he was facing now? Tang Xiu looked at his mother's expression. He knew that his words had moved her, then he stressed out more. Mom, our family's assets are basically insufficient to even fill the gap between the teeth if we compared it to Su Shangwen's company. It's just a drop in the bucket and useless for him. Besides, he has been doing business for so many years. Not only has he amassed a lot of wealth, but he also has created a lot of connections. If he were really short on money, why would he rush to borrow some money from us? He knows perfectly well the situation our family is in. The way I see it, borrowing money from us is clearly his intention to humiliate us. Besides, if he were short of money, he would have thought to borrow it from his friends. This? Su Lingyun opened her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. Chapter 118, Driven Out. The more Su Lingyun thought about it, the more she felt that her son's words were true. Others might be clueless about her family, but she perfectly knew about Su Shangwen. Even if her restaurant's business was good and thriving recently, but it was after all, only a family restaurant. Saying that it was a restaurant was pleasant to hear. But the unpleasant word for it was actually a canteen. How much money would it make? With such a big business that Su Shangwen had, how could his money be fewer than hers? After having thought through about this matter, Su Lingyun firmly nodded and said, "Sonny, you're really good in your study. Mom hasn't read many books and my education is not as good as yours. What you said did make sense. It seems like the intention Su Shangwen had in coming to our restaurant is indeed not to borrow money, but to humiliate me. You can rest assured that I will never lend him a penny later." Tang Xiu raised his thumbs up and exclaimed, "Mom, you indeed are able to realize it clearly. I'm really afraid that you wouldn't understand. I had even prepared a lot of words to argue with you." Su Lingyun said with a smile, "I look like those people who don't understand the essence of the issues, don't I?" Tang Xiu said with a laugh, "No, absolutely not. Who dares to say it? I'll find and kick him. Anyway, are you still going to continue to do the accounting?" Su Lingyun shook her head and said, "No, since I've already realized it, why would I do that? Anyway, let's forget it. You've just come back, Sonny. Are you hungry? Mom will cook something delicious for you in the kitchen. Besides, the meals outside are not better than the flavor and taste our family has." Tang Xiu replied with a smile, "I do think the same, Mom. Nobody in this world can cook deliciously as you." Mouthy, eh. With such words from Tang Xiu, it made Su Lingyun happy as the smile on her face was getting brighter. Shortly after, 4 dishes and 1 soup was delivered to the box as Tang Xiu asked Su Lingyun to accompany him to have a meal together and chat about their family's daily life, after which, Tang Xiu then prepared to leave. Knock, knock. The door was knocked as Dingxi then pushed the door open. He greeted Tang Xiu and spoke in a low voice, "Big boss, Su Shangwen's son has come and is wandering in our lobby." Su Lingyun said with a confused expression, "What is he doing?" Su Lingyun did not have the slightest good impression of her nephew. Previously, he framed her son and said that her son stole 3,000 yuan from his family. Not only was she humiliated in public, even her son was injured due to that. Tang Xiu stood up and lightly spoke, "I'll go out and see it myself." Su Lingyun quickly said, "Son, although I don't like Su Xiangfei, but don't go too far in handling this matter. Whoever he is, he's still." Tang Xiu interrupted his mother and spoke with a sinking tone, "Mom, I know what you want to say. I won't clean him up, but we don't welcome him at the restaurant. Don't you worry about it, I still have some sense of discretion." Su Lingyun nodded. But still, she was somewhat uneasy and followed Tang Xiu to the private box's door. After Tang Xiu went out the box, he saw Su Xiangfei speak something to the approaching waiter. He strode over in front of him and spoke with a sinking and deep tone, what are you doing here? Upon seeing Tang Xiu, Su Xiangfei spoke with a surprised expression, cousin, aren't you? Shut the fuck up. Tang Xiu interrupted Su Xiangfei and said with a deep tone, Su Xiangfei, don't speak in such a cordial manner. I don't buy it. Besides, our family's restaurant doesn't welcome you. Did you forget what I've told you? If you dare to come to us and I see you once again, I'll fuck you up badly. Su Xiangfei's neck shrunk. Even though he was full of resentment inside toward Tang Xiu, but recalling about his father's urges about the matter, he squeezed out a smile and said, cousin, please don't do this. We are of the same family and everything was just a joke and only quarrels between family members. I admit that I did have wronged you. But you've always been mature and generous, please just forget and don't bother about my former attitudes. Tang Xiu said with a laughing sneer. Leave those niceties words. Your family is yours and my family is mine. I won't come out to seek any friendship from you. Now, you get the fuck out, else I'll order some people to kick you out forcefully. In an instant, Dingxi and a few others aggressively swarmed over toward Su Xiangfei. Their gestures were as though they were ready to beat Su Xiangfei savagely had Tang Xiu send out his order. Su Xiangfei's complexion turned extremely ugly as he looked at Dingxi and the other men. He also looked at the cold frost expression Tang Xiu and finally got scared. He stepped back a few steps. However, when he saw Su Lingyun, he quickly shouted, Auntie, I'm your very own nephew. You wouldn't drive me away, would you? I admit that I was in the wrong before, I promise I won't do that again later. The tender-hearted Su Lingyun suddenly showed a hesitating expression as she heard Su Xiangfei's words. Tang Xiu shouted with a sinking tone, Dingxi, you guys hit him a few times and kick him out. Do remember that as long as you all don't kill him, I'll take the responsibility if you break his arms and legs. Done. Dingxi and the others rolled up their sleeves and prepared to move. Su Xiangfei's pupils shrunk. He did not tarry to wait for Su Lingyun's answers as he turned around and bolted toward outside of the restaurant. The last time at school, he was hit and injured by a criminal. Only after having been treated seriously was he discharged from the hospital. Never again did he wanted to pass even another day being bedridden on a hospital sickbed. Everyone looked at the running away Su Xiang's back and suddenly burst into laughter. A few waiters who knew Su Xiangfei's virtuous well-doings gathered and ridiculed him. Su Shangguan is not good stuff and his son is a coward. Our little boss only scared him and I never thought that he will be that damn terrified. How could our big boss have such a nephew? What a disgrace. Such a handsome young man unexpectedly has no balls. I don't know whether his head got squeezed by the door or not. He clearly knows that we don't welcome him here, but still, he came here to be slapped in the face. He doesn't dislike to be bashful, but I'll be much more bashful than him. Our little boss is really awesome, a few words are enough to scare him away. Our big boss's heart is way too kind and she can't withstand the pleads and praises from them. I want to say that our little boss just did rightly. There's no way that kind of crooked people can be given any face. Just like subordinates imitate their superiors, it's like father likes son. That guy really is one of the same species with Su Shangguan. Tang Xiu turned his head and looked at Su Lingyun. Seeing such an ugly expression on his mother's face, he waved to the few waiters nearby, motioning that they did not need to join in on the fun and to take care of their work. Mom, we have our time and days, and Su Shangguan's family has theirs. The more we got pestered by them, the messier the problems we'll have to face. So you don't need to take them seriously in the future. Sooner or later they will court big troubles for themselves, and those kind of troubles are not what you will be able to help even if you want to. Su Lingyun sighed deeply as she said with a smile, I don't understand what you were saying. But, let's just forget it. It would be difficult for us to hide from whatever will happen. But I won't give them any face in the future should they come to find me. Tang Xiu nodded. Before he left, he specially called Banzhou and Dingxi to the side and told them to protect his mother. If anyone sent by Su Shangwen came to make trouble, then they had to directly report it to him. In the evening, on the way back to Southgate Town, Tang Xiu received a call from Yuan Chuling. He knew that Tang Xiu had just come back from Jingmen Island and wanted to see him immediately. However, he was still at school and he could not easily leave school. So Tang Xiu told him that he would go back to school at the latest in the day after tomorrow. Tang Xiu could ignore other people, but he could not help but care about Yuan Chuling. After all, Yuan Chuling was like an iron hardcore good brother for him since he had helped and defended him countless of times, this was a kindness and benevolence that made Tang Xiu feel grateful. In fact, after he had returned to Earth, Tang Xiu had always been avoiding making friends with others to the best of his abilities. After having been betrayed by his good friends, it caused his heart to have some detachment and to guard against anyone. He was not afraid to have a few friends, but he feared in having a lot of friends that would plan and scheme against him. Tang Xiu did not want to repeat the same mistakes as in the past, and neither would he ever let it happen again. After having gotten back to the Southgate Town, Mu Qingping reported to him that the medicinal ingredients from Jingmen Island had been shipped and that she already signed and received them to the warehouse. Just when he was about to prepare to concoct the Golden Bell liquid, Mu Qingping came to find him again and told him that a guest had come visit. Who's the guest? In the warehouse, Tang Xiu asked with a puzzled expression. He did not have many friends and only few people knew that he lived in Southgate Town. So he could not figure out who came to visit him. He said that he's called Long Zhengyu. Mu Qingping said. Tang Xiu's brows wrinkled. He did not expect that it was Long Zhengyu who came here. The first time he came visiting, it was after he gave this villa to him. After having thought for a moment, he left the warehouse and came to the villa's living room. He saw Long Zhengyu sitting on the sofa, drinking tea. Why have you come here? Tang Xiu went over to the opposite side of Long Zhengyu and sat down. Long Zhengyu said with a laugh, I just heard that you've come back, so I come here and wanted to talk with you. How are things? Have you gotten used to living here? Not too bad. Tang Xiu said lightly. Not too bad? Long Zhengyu secretly smiled wryly inside his heart. Had it been someone else get such a villa, they would have already wild with joy and jaw dropped. But for Tang Xiu here, it turned out that it was only a not too bad. Brother Tang, the reason I looked for you here is because I have something to talk to you about. Tang Xiu said, you can speak frankly to me if you have something to say. But I don't have much time though. I need to do something shortly. Long Zhengyu nodded and said, it was because of you. I didn't know where Kong Xia inquired about me. But since she couldn't find you, she called me a lot of times. But I really have never thought that Kong Xia would really work for you. And yesterday evening, my father asked me and we talked a lot. He wanted me to ask you whether our Long family could get a huge sum of money and buy some more shares again from you. Impossible. Tang Xiu shook his head and rejected directly. Long Zhengyu rolled his eyes and snappily replied, I knew that you would say that. Since you refused, then forget it. Tang Xiu said, are you done? If so, I can't keep you a company any longer. Long Zhengyu quickly said, nah. I haven't even started, I haven't even entered the main topic. In fact, my main purpose to look for you today is that I want to cooperate with you. I've developed a new project recently. As long as you can help me draw the blueprint design, I'll give you 10% of the shares. How about it? Tang Xiu's brows slanted and asked, what kind of project? Chapter 119, Gifting Money. Tang Xiu had always opened his arms regarding businesses that would make money. In this kind of a materialistic era, money was the measurement of success and failure. Without money, one would be unable to traverse around the world and it would be very difficult to move without it, so he knew perfectly well about the importance of money. For his cultivation, he needed cultivation resources and materials, even though he was chained to his schooling. Tang Xiu had always been thinking about how to make a fortune. He was a well-educated person and a master in the zither, go, calligraphy, and paintings. He could be said as a multi-talented person and was very proficient in all kinds of fields when he lived in the immortal world for 10,000 years. Drawing an architectural design for him was easy. And he had the confidence that if he were to draw the architectural design on Earth, his design would absolutely become a landmark building which would make everyone's eyes shine brightly. Long Zhengyu's eyes beamed as he slowly said, I have 2 friends from the capital and they have been preparing to invest on building construction in Star City. But the kind of building they want has to have the most magnificent, extremely unique, and an iconic building characteristic. Our Long family has already decided to cooperate with them and the total investments of our 3 parties is 5 billion yuan. Of course, we will also consider adding more additional funds if there are any problems with the investment funds later. As for the 10% of shares that will be given to you, it won't change even if we add additional investment funds later. 5 billion? Tang Xiu stared blankly as he looked at the earnest and serious expression on Long Zhengyu's face. It took quite a while before he got his composure back. He was not shocked by the 5 billion yuan of investments, but instead got struck by that 10% shares. That shares, wasn't it the same as giving it to him? Tang Xiu slowly collected himself as he was at a loss of what to say before he replied, 500 million only to buy a design. You're really rich even if you have the money to burn, aren't you? Long Zhengyu said with a laugh, it's perhaps an Arabian Night to buy a design for 500 million yuans. But they and I think that it's worth the price. You know that 500 million is not only able to buy the design, but also can buy a friendship and tie you up to our cause. Those 2 friends heard about you from me and they want to be friends with you. Friend? Whilst scoffing and laughing inside but calm on the surface, Tang Xiu then said, they are so confident that they and I can become friends? Long Zhengyu said with a laugh, there is a saying that the heavens would never forsake people with ideals. Whether or not they can be friends, we'll find out from our future exchanges. Now, you only need to answer me, are you willing to accept this business? Sure, why wouldn't I? Tang Xiu's brows pricked as a resolute and affirmation taste could be seen on his expression. Long Zhengyu took out a cigarette. But when he was about to lit it, it was as though he suddenly remembered something as he looked at Tang Xiu and asked, do you mind if I smoke? Tang Xiu shook his head and said, when will I have to give the construction design to you? Long Zhengyu said, temporarily, there's no need to rush it. The initial phase for the project would need 2 months of preparation. Wait for a few days for us to mark the land for the building. I'll take you over to see it, and then you can start drawing the architectural design. Brother Tang, your task is the key. Don't let me down. I won't let you down. Tang Xiu said lightly. You received money from others, and you pay it with your own work. Tang Xiu had a perfectionist nature, so he naturally would give his best to design a qualified architectural design blueprint. However, he was also thinking about another problem in his mind, that was, replanning the 9 Dragons Island. The foreign rich person's design who developed 9 Dragons Island before, had one big flaw in his opinion since it did not include and properly use the most important feature of 9 spiritual veins. 9 Dragons Island was a feng shui treasured trove of which he absolutely could not develop it wastefully and carelessly. Long Zhengyu recalled Tang Xiu's design for the walled hill village as a trace of worry in his heart instantly vanished. Being able to carve a diamond one would not need to shape a porcelain. And since Tang Xiu did not fear to take on this single sale, Long Zhengyu believed that he could meet all the expectations and satisfied him. Even those 2 guys would perhaps be surprised by then. Since you agreed to take care of it, I am assured. Long Zhengyu gave the affirmation. Tang Xiu said, are there any other things? Long Zhengyu smiled wryly, Brother Tang has pointed the door out to the guest, Anyway, since you have something to do, I won't disturb you no longer. Wait for the news from me. Once we have chosen the land, I'll contact you. All right. Tang Xiu nodded. After having sent Long Zhengyu off, Tang Xiu entered the warehouse. He was eager to concoct the golden bell liquid now and strove to improve his cultivation. This time, the prepared materials were particularly sufficient, either being the fierce beast's bones and the bought medicinal herbs. He could try concocting a dozen of times. Inside the warehouse, Tang Xiu walked toward the fine iron pot and poured in water, filling half of the pot. Then, he began to boil the water. To concoct golden bell liquid, a lot of boiled hot water would be needed. The moment the water had been boiled, he respectively put the fierce beast's bones, teeth, meats and tendons, and other materials into the water. After the boiled water was nearly half used, he put a few traditional Chinese medicine into the pot. The fierce beast's bones were harder than ordinary wild beast bones. And boiling it with boiled water would be very difficult. However, after Tang Xiu had put in a few medicinal herbs, the corrosiveness was greatly strengthened. He also quite regretted that the poisonous demon cane he obtained previously had already been used up, otherwise, added with the poisonous demon cane, the effect would have been better. Add some water. After half an hour, the remaining liquid was left only about 2 bowls from the previously half pot of water, and the liquid color had become extremely bright red. Along with the clear water, Tang Xiu poured it into the pot. He also grounded the green jade stone essence into powder. By the time he boiled the liquid again, he scattered the powdered green jade stone essence into it. Since there was no poisonous demon cane to stir up the liquid, Tang Xiu had long prepared a clean steel pipe and stirred the liquid for a moment and then put the remaining medicinal herbs into the pot according to the order. Along with the essence of the medicinal herbs being added and blended, the liquid gradually began to change as the color turned into deep blue. Time passed by again. By the time the deep blue-colored liquid was only left with about 2 bowls, a happy smile revealed on Tang Xiu's face. He did not expect that the first time concocting golden bell liquid would be this smooth. As long as he was careful with the following step, he would succeed this first attempt. He took out the 500-years-old wild ginseng, broke it and put half of it into the pot. After the remaining liquid was only about a bowl, he then put the remaining half of the wild ginseng into it. Then, the rich medicine fragrance filled the entire warehouse. Because of the added ginseng, the liquid color changed again and now turned from deep blue into a golden color, as twinkling stars was emitted out from golden light could be seen in the liquid as though it was a living and nimble creatures, looking smart and mysterious. It's a success. Tang Xiu's eyes shined. His heart was beating faster as a wild joy expression burst out from his eyes. After the remaining liquid left only half a bowl, Tang Xiu unhesitatingly took off all of his clothes and carefully took out half a spoon of liquid and poured it onto his palm. Hiss. The boiling hot golden liquid scalded Tang Xiu's skin with its blazing high temperature. It was quite fortunate that Tang Xiu had strong willpower as he barely persevered and did not put it out. One cannot achieve glory and wealth without going through trials and tribulations. A look of madness flashed from Tang Xiu's eyes. Without hesitation, he began to wipe the golden bell liquid on his palm onto his body. The kind burning hot feeling made him chilled, but he quickened his speed and wiped unceasingly, from the wrist, to the arms, then to the shoulders, neck, waist, legs, feet. The golden bell liquid was constantly being consumed as the area of Tang Xiu's body that was covered with the liquid was also increasing. By the time the golden bell liquid was about to be used up, every part of Tang Xiu's body had already been applied with the liquid. At this moment, if anyone came and saw Tang Xiu, they would have covered their mouth with a frightened expression on their faces. His whole body was boiled red like a sun-dried boiled shrimp. His skin was cracking and his meat was rotting, as his body was violently trembling. All the veins all over his body were protruded whilst the cold water inside his body permeated and drilled from the open pores as it mixed with his blood, causing him to look particularly frightening. There are still 2 remaining spoons of liquid. Tang Xiu was hard and ruthless to others, but he was more ruthless to himself. He took out 2 spoons of golden bell liquid and respectively applied it onto the weakest part of his body, neck and lower part of the body. Gua. The pain was acute and piercing as Tang Xiu's eyes turned bloodshot. Applying the golden bell liquid this second time was as though adding oil to the fire and multiplied the pains he felt. Creak. The door to the warehouse was pushed open as Mu Qingping in her apron carried dinner in her hands. The moment she stepped through the door and saw Tang Xiu's appearance, her pupils contracted violently as her body was trembling. The porcelain bowl in her hands fell to the floor and smashed into pieces. If she was not already recognized Tang Xiu, she would perhaps have long turned around and ran away through the door. Although Tang Xiu was naked at the moment, and even though his big lower body part was as though a tilting hard iron rod, Mu Qingping did not have the slightest embarrassment nor shame. Her heart was beating faster because of the miserable state Tang Xiu was in. Never once had she ever seen someone this miserable to the point of terror like this. Tang Xiu did not notice Mu Qingping's presence, nor did he even hear the sound of the fallen and smashed bowl. His state of mind was fully focused on his own body whilst fighting and suppressing the burning pain. At the same time, he crazily revolved the star force inside his body in accordance with the cultivation practice route, in the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. The energy contained within the golden bell liquid was as though the tides that washing up Tang Xiu's body, but the star force that was revolving inside his meridian channels moved along with the energy from the golden bell liquid. The star force and the energy gradually fused and formed a particular energy in his body as this form of special energy, within the practice state of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, nourished and repaired Tang Xiu's flesh and blood. Gradually, the blood and cold water coagulated and formed blood scabs. A kind of new energy formed on the skin layer and was unseen by the naked eyes as the energy conducted its repairing and nourishing processes, tearing the skin and tempering it again repeatedly. Tang Xiu's skin layer was like a divine weapon that was being tempered repeatedly. After each and every tearing process, the skin was repaired and new energy surged up every time, strengthening and transforming the skin's flexibility and toughness. The skin layer was cut layer upon layer. But the newborn surging energy then filled the void place as if the newly energy was now a part of Tang Xiu's body. From the outside, Tang Xiu's body had already been wrapped with thick blood scabs as though he was in a cocoon. Mu Qingping was as though a sculpture that stood at the warehouse's door as she looked at Tang Xiu without blinking. She found that a glistening golden light was enveloping Tang Xiu's body as if he was the arriving god or Buddha, who was full of a sacred aura. Chapter 120, title at end. The starry sky brightened up as the heat wave invaded. In the depths of the vast starry sky, a dark star was like it had been mysteriously summoned. The originally dark starry sky was as though emitting out and enveloped by a halo, as it accumulated layer by layer and shined as though it was daytime. Imperceptibly, a huge amount of star power was as though the tides that surged toward Earth's direction, as it transmitted toward the villa in Southgate Town where Tang Xiu was cultivating. Mu Qingping had awakened from the shock. Although Tang Xiu was unlikely to be in danger, but the strange scene still attracted her. She could tell that Tang Xiu was still cultivating, but for her, such a horrible cultivation practice was unheard of. She even had some worries. If her daughter had to undergo this kind of thing, that. After a long while, Mu Qingping slowly withdrew from the door and quietly closed the door from the outside. Inside the warehouse, Tang Xiu still maintained the cultivation posture as he crazily absorbed the influx of the star's power from all directions. The previously 9 spheres of stars inside his dantian began to expand along with the incoming influx of the star's power. Tang Xiu's dantian crazily opened as his dantian's boundary cracked, as it was then filled and was nourished by the star's power. Boom. Whilst Tang Xiu was still deeply immersed in his cultivation state, The 9 spheres of stars inside his dantian expanded to their limits, as a violent aura surged out everywhere. Tang Xiu's vision blackened out, as at present, the severe pain almost made him let out a miserable howl. His mind sea was firm as though a bluestone, and despite the pain that drowned him, an ecstatic expression emerged out of his face. Through his spiritual sense, he could clearly see that the previously 9 spheres of stars inside his dantian increased by 9 more stars. There were 18 spheres of stars right now. These 18 spheres of stars exuded brilliant rays of light all over his body, as its volume was almost the same compared to the previous state. One of the most surprising thing for Tang Xiu was the star force inside his dantian, which had already reached the limit before, now became more scarce and quite empty. His dantian now could accommodate more star force, as it had been expanded 10 times more than before. Is this the skin strengthening stage? Tang Xiu slowly opened his eyes. The moment the 2 bands of light disappeared from his eyes, the thick blood scabs that covered his body like a spider web was split open. Along with his body's vibration, pieces of blood scabs dropped on the floor. Punching and striking. Tang Xiu could clearly hear the sound from his striking fist. 20,000 pounds. The satisfied look on Tang Xiu's face was getting thicker. Along with the promotion of his cultivation base, his physical strength as well as his force also increased by several fold. Now, he was confident that if he came across anyone at the same level of those human organ traffickers, he would be able to kill them without worrying about the enemy's firearms. Reaching the vitality tempering stage only made him stronger than an ordinary person. And by achieving the skin strengthening stage, he now truly had the ability to protect himself. Even if he encountered those martial artists who had reached the Grandmaster level, he would also be able to defeat them. Now, since I've broken through to the skin strengthening stage, what I needed to do is to cultivate seriously to fill my dantian with star force as soon as possible. By that time, only then will it be possible for me to break through to the peak layer of the skin strengthening stage. If I'm able to reach the bone strengthening stage, the number of stars in my dantian would reach 36 spheres, and I'll be much stronger by then. Tang Xiu dressed up, but he did not clean up the mess in the warehouse and instead quickly entered the villa. Because of the last cultivation practice, and because his body was tempered and quenched, impurities within were discharged. Although the impurities that had turned into blood scabs, the stench was horrible. So he quickly entered the bathroom and soaped himself a few times and had a shower until the stinking stench on his body had all been cleansed. After having taken the shower, with a happy mood, he put on clean clothes and then went to the living room with a refreshed feeling. He saw Mu Qingping sitting on the sofa whilst looking to be lost in her thoughts. Then, Tang Xiu asked, "Have I practiced for a whole night? I'm quite starving, please give me something to eat." It was only for a short time had Mu Qingping sat in the living room as she suddenly jumped up from the sofa when she heard Tang Xiu's voice. She looked at Tang Xiu with faint fear in her eyes. But, she saw that Tang Xiu's appearance was like his usual self. The only difference was that his skin seemingly turned whiter than before. Your body." Mu Qingping's lips perched a few times as she spoke with a low voice. Tang Xiu stared blankly. He recalled that when he was leaving the warehouse, he saw the shattered porcelain bowl as well as the already spoiled dishes on the floor that had yet to be cleaned up. Then, he immediately asked in astonishment, "You went to the warehouse and saw me in cultivation practice?" Mu Qingping hurriedly replied, "I originally wanted to send you some supper. I had never thought that you were in cultivation practice. Moreover, that time, your body was." Recalling the scene when he was naked in his practice and even being looked at accidentally by Mu Qingping, a slightly embarrassed look appeared on Tang Xiu's face. He looked up and rubbed his brows whilst speaking with a smile, "My body is fine, and it's even better than before. Anyway, I'm really starving, can you give me something to eat?" Mu Qingping quickly said, Well, then I'm going to cook for you now. Haven't you been practicing for 3 days straight?" So, it's not surprising for you to be hungry. Tang Xiu involuntarily exclaimed in surprise, say what? You said that I had practiced for 3 days straight? Mu Qingping nodded and said, yes. You had practiced in the warehouse for 3 days and 4 nights. Originally, I thought that cultivation practice was simple, but I have never thought that it would consume so much time. Tang Xiu's mouth twitched a few times as he sat down on the sofa with a desperate expression. He previously thought that concocting the Golden Bell liquid and attempting to break through his cultivation would need 2 days at the most, but never once had he ever thought that it would take 3 days and 4 nights. Speaking about it, the 1-week vacation Gong Dalong had given him from school was due, and he was 2 days late. Damn. When I go back to school, Han Qingwu would rain down her fierce reprimands at me, wouldn't she? Tang Xiu wryly smiled and sighed. Suddenly, Mu Qingping, who just went into the kitchen, came back in an apron. She looked at Tang Xiu and then spoke, Divine Dr. Tang. I came to clean your room while you were still practicing and heard that your mobile phone constantly ringing. I noticed that in these 2 days, it has been ringing for at least a few dozen times every day. I know. Tang Xiu paused for a moment and then immediately stood straight from the sofa as he strode toward the stairs. After entering his bedroom, he grabbed his mobile and saw that there were 100 missed calls from the screen and dozens of unread SMS. His mouth violently twitched a few times as a helpless expression casted out from his eyes. He really did not want to think about it. These more than 100 missed calls, a lot of them should be from Han Qingwu. As he had expected. When Tang Xiu opened the missed calls Windows user interface, he saw the number of times Han Qingwu had called him. It was 24. And that's quite a lot. Tang Xiu slightly looked down as his eyes swept the names of other people on the list, 42 missed calls from Yuan Chuling, 19 from Long Zhengyu, 32 from Chen Zhizheng, and 6 missed calls from 2 unfamiliar numbers. Huh? By the time his eyes swept on the last name, Tang Xiu paused and suddenly frowned. It was Banzhou, and he had called him for 12 times. Almost without any hesitation, he quickly called Banzhou back. He was aware that Banzhou would not have called him if there was not something important that happened. Much less that he called him so many times. And he could tell that the problem was highly likely to be related to his mother. Hello, boss, is this you? After his call was picked, a hasty voice came up. Tang Xiu replied with a sinking voice, it's me. What happened? You called me dozens of times. Boss, if you have time, quickly come to the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Ban Xiu's voice sounded again. Tang Xiu's breath lagged as his face turned particularly ugly. Then, he asked with a shout, has something happened to my mother? Banzhou said, yes. Someone has wounded Big Boss. But her injury was not serious, although she needs to rest for a few months. Dingzi and I are also waiting here. Give me your specific location. Tang Xiu replied back as he ran out of his bedroom. Banzhou said, Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, inpatient apartment, 6th floor, wardroom number 405. Boss, there are things I want to tell you in advance. Your mother has been wounded by someone called Tai Long. He's very powerful. Dingzi and I were also injured by him, but we are afraid to get out of the hospital right now, because those people have sent a lot of men near the hospital. As long as we go out, we will be beaten savagely, since they said that if we don't apologize to them, they will never let us out of the hospital's door. Fucking bastard. A chilling murderous intent burst out from Tang Xiu's eyes. He quickly hung up the phone and sprinted out of the villa with his fastest speed. By the time he sprinted toward the villa square, he came across a few real estate's employees who were accompanying Long Shuiyao, as they inspected the environment inside the villa complex. Tang Xiu rushed as he strode toward Long Shuiyao. A few employees from the real estate management looked at him with great wariness, but Tang Xiu ignored them. He looked at Long Shuiyao and spoke with a sunken voice. Do you have a car? Yes. Looking at the gloomy expression Tang Xiu had, a strange feeling arose inside Long Shuiyao's heart, but still, she truthfully replied to him. Tang Xiu said, "Can you take me quickly to the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? I have an urgent situation there." Okay. Long Shuiyao hesitated for a second before she nodded and complied. She looked at those few staffs who accompanied her and said, "We'll call it day here. If there's no problem to solve, then, we'll be discussing it later. You can go back to your own jobs." After having said that, she turned and walked toward the real estate management's parking lot. Shortly after, she led Tang Xiu toward a white BMW car, opened the door and looked at Tang Xiu as she asked, "You want me to drive or you take it?" Tang Xiu said, "I don't have a driver license." With a strange expression, Long Shuiyao looked at Tang Xiu. With his age right now, he should have long been able to take the driver license test, right? Considering that he was of an extraordinary identity, how could he possibly not have a driver license? However, even though she had those questions, but she did not probe further as she nodded and sat on the driver's seat. She started the car and looked at Tang Xiu, who sat on the co-pilot seat, saying, "Is there anything I could help with? I have an acquaintance in the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital." Tang Xiu said, "I'm not sure for now. Let's just get there first and then we'll talk again." Upon seeing that Tang Xiu did not directly refuse, she could clearly guess something. Someone Tang Xiu definitely cared about, should be in the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. And the person was highly likely to be sick or injured.